Welcome back to Lawns Across America. Today I'm going to give you an update on the damage sustained here in Florida and elsewhere after Hurricane Helene, then tell you a story about how one of my neighbors almost kicked my ass over some Kalinga nutsedge. Then we're going to talk about a St. Augustine lawn in Florida that's got some disease heading into the fall, should we fertilize or not. And then in a similar vein, somebody asks about nitrogen blitzing, a newly seeded cool season lawn. And then finally, it's me reacting to AI. For those of you that overheard what I uploaded a couple days ago, that was actually an AI podcast version of my Christmas Lights ebook. And I kind of got a little bit carried away with the software and did another one on my Winterizer ebook, but this time we're going to react to it and go through it together. So that'll be a little AI generated ebook action that I won't make a habit of, but we're going to have some fun with today. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another podcast. Here we are in the fall of 2024. I know it's been a little bit while since I've done some content here. I had quite a bit of stuff going on through September that made it so I had to do those things rather than maybe focusing on making a lot of content. And then, of course, we had the hurricane last week. Hurricane Helene came through. And I'll tell you, we were actually in Mexico for our company retreat. Every year we take all the Yard Mastery employees, and this year their spouses. We were not able to do spouses every year, but this year we were. So full-time employees and their spouses, we took them to Cancun. We have our company retreat there and have a good time. It's like a family reunion every year because all of us work remote pretty much. And so getting together once a year, we find that valuable. We start planning for the next year, giving out ideas, hearing about wins for the year from each department, and it was just awesome. Well, we were in Cancun for that, and literally we got back, and 2 days later, Hurricane Helene came through. And where I'm at in Florida, a lot of people, every time they hear about a hurricane down in Florida, people reach out to me and stuff, which is cool. I'm in the Tampa Bay area, so I'm on the west coast of Florida. And if you know where Tampa Bay is, you got St. Petersburg right there. That's where I was born and raised. Tampa's on the other side of the bay. Now, where I live now is south of Tampa Bay, so I live in the Bradenton area over by there. So that's Manatee County, but it's still part of the Tampa Bay area. And where I live, I'm inland. So when these hurricanes come through, there's a few things to think about because I actually have connections not only to Florida because I was born and raised, but also to North Carolina because my parents live in western North Carolina. And but when hurricanes come through Florida, you got to think about a couple of things. And the first one is there's a rule, and that rule is that you run from flooding, or you run from water and you hide from wind. In other words, people think that hurricanes, they think the wind is really what causes the damage because that's where you see trees blown over and it'll blow roofs off houses and things, and that is true. However, a good majority of the homes here in Florida that are built, in the modern age, say after the year 2000, they have better technology. Even before that, most of our homes here in Florida are made of concrete block. We have concrete block homes. And they do that because of hurricanes. Now, the roofs can blow off, but the concrete block is not going to blow away. And like I said, in modern construction, just with the way they make the angles of the roofs and the way they secure them with straps and things like that, they can handle pretty much Category 4 hurricanes with really little damage. Sure, you're going to lose some shingles here and there. You'll lose some soffit. Even the windows can handle 120, 130 mile an hour winds. In the gusts that we get. And so what I'm trying to say is it's not wind that typically is what you're worried about in a hurricane. It's actually the water. And if you live in an area that floods or that is called a surge zone, that means that the water is going to get to the point, or can get to the point where it will flood into your house. And that becomes an extremely dangerous situation. Anytime water is surrounding you, you have a chance of getting swept away. And water is very dangerous that way, so that's why you run from water and you hide from wind. And so the hurricane that just came through, really the main damage that Florida received was the beaches. A lot of you don't realize you come down here, you go to our famous beaches, like Clearwater Beach is famous on this coast, St. Pete Beach, which is Paso Grill is the beach there that's pretty famous. Treasure Island is famous. John's Pass, which is, the John's Pass boardwalk there is owned by a famous YouTuber named Ben Mala. But John's Pass is a great area. Madeira Beach, there's famous YouTubers in Madeira Beach. The Jug Squad, a lot of y'all know these. I guess I associate everything to YouTube, but these are famous beaches. Those are up in Pinellas County. And then even when you come down to here, we have Anna Maria Island is very famous. Siesta Key is famous in Sarasota. Longboat. All of those are actually barrier islands. We call them beaches, but what they are is they are barrier islands, and the barrier islands have in between the mainland and them is an intracoastal waterway. That's where the boat traffic is. Anyway, lot to think about there, but what I'm trying to tell you is that this hurricane did destroy all of the beaches, 100%. All of them were underwater by several feet. You have to realize these barrier islands, they don't sit at they sit at sea level as it is. And so then when the sea level rises from a hurricane that just skirts through and pushes all of that water towards the coast, plus you already have tides coming in and out or coming up, that's what's called surge. And that surge 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 feet, even more, the water just washes right over the islands. And so the fact that there's buildings or whatever there, they're underwater by that much. Now, a lot of the homes on these barrier islands are on stilts over the years as different tragedies have happened and homes have been destroyed. They've been rebuilt on stilts. And so those homes can survive, but those people still lose their cars. They still lose, a lot. They lose obviously power, things like that. But the big thing now is the access, the sand that's washed through. The sand's washed into everything. Because again, these islands just went back underwater for several hours, just like reverted right back to several thousand years ago. They're just underwater, so the sand just takes them over. So, that's the devastation here in Florida is on the beaches. And then there's the devastation that you hear up through northern, into Georgia, but really up into western North Carolina, Asheville, we keep hearing about, into Tennessee. My parents live in western North Carolina, but not the part that got hit. Asheville is where I guess the main focus that everybody's focusing on that got the main brunt of this, and it's a different kind of damage they get. My parents are further west in North Carolina, over towards like Murphy would probably be the biggest. They're in the middle of nowhere, but the Murphy would be the biggest town near them. Like when they go to Walmart or Lowe's, they're going to go to Murphy. So they're further over, even west of like Cherokee, North Carolina, Smoky Mountains over there. But the Asheville area that got hit, what you got to realize is that a lot of Floridians live in that area in western North Carolina that got hit, and over where my parents live. A lot of retired firemen and police officers up through there from Florida. Like a lot of Floridians retire there is basically what I'm saying. They're actually called halfbacks. They're people that their family migrated down to Florida from Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio. Their families migrated down here 2 generations ago down to Florida, and now the kids have gone halfback and they've ended up in the mountains of North Carolina. That's very common. So a lot of Floridians retired up there. But what do people who live in those areas and live in the mountains? Some people, they want to live in the valley. Like my parents live in a valley, and so they look up and have beautiful mountain views all around them. Whereas other people want to live up high on the mountain, right? And they want to live over on the edge of the mountain. And then some people live throughout the different elevations, and that's beautiful living. It's gorgeous, but people want to live on creeks. If you think about it, humans want to live near water. Even in Florida, most of the population is near the coasts, right? Near the water. And even the coast, even the people inland in Florida that live in our flatlands, they live either near the rivers or the lakes or the streams. It's just how humans are. We want to be near water, and it's no different in North Carolina. People live near the streams and the creeks. It's a dream. It was my parents' dream. That's why they retired there. I mean, my dad's a retired fireman. He retired, like 30 years ago now. So he's been retired a long time. But they wanted to buy creekside land, and they do. They live on a creek, and their creek got high from this last one. But again, no damage, no problem. But the areas of Asheville, what happens is there are mountains there. There are hills there. And when it rains on those mountains, those creeks overflow quickly, and they're coming down a mountain. The water's rushing down a mountain, and it compounds as it goes. So it just basically creates its own new creeks, new rivers, new flow zones, and it just goes. I was actually just watching a video from Justin Rhodes. He's a YouTuber. He's somewhere in that area. He's a homesteader that I watch, and it's really sad. If you watch, his entire homestead was destroyed. I won't ruin it for you because he pretty much filmed it. Him and his wife just raw how they felt going through it. It was harrowing in his family. So go watch him, Justin Rhodes. But you can see what happens, that water coming down those mountains. It just compounds. And again, the fact that you have the houses are usually typically near creeks or water, those creeks overflow. It's so and the roads go across the creeks. It's just 100-year flood, 1,000-year flood, whatever you want to call it. It's devastating. That's what you keep hearing about when people are saying it's a lot worse than you think. It's like these people are literally isolated. They've gone to live in an area where they could be a little, not isolated, but they've just gone in an area where they could live out in the country. But just due to the terrain and what happens when this type of a storm hits them and what happens, they are literally cut off. And I mean, not just cut off like even down here in Florida where the beaches are cut off, they can get the sand out of there and reopen the roads pretty quickly. It's not like that up there. The thing, it's road after road after road just washed away. So it's I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos coming out on it now from YouTubers that are in that area and affected, and it's pretty sad. So either way, I just wanted to kind of start off with that because it's something that, again, didn't affect me personally and didn't affect my parents personally, but could have. I mean, both of us, our whole family could have been in a really bad way if we just lived a few miles different than we do. So all right, now we're going to get on to a little bit of a lighter story. Well, I don't know if it's a lighter story. One of my neighbors almost beat the crap out of me. and the thing is I'm such a goofball, I didn't realize it till it was almost too late. So let me tell you this little story. So most people, I guess, let me ask you all this. Think about in the neighborhood that you live in, and this has been through my whole life. When you think about knowing your neighbors, typically, you know, there's one neighbor that you will know that you will know the best. So growing up in Indiana, not growing up, but in Indiana when I lived there for so many years, our best friend neighbors were the Sullivans next door. That's Jake the lawn kid, right? His dad, Eric, and their family. They were our best friends. They just were. They were our neighbors, but they were also our best friends. And they were our direct neighbors. And so we knew them very well. And part of that becomes because not only are you your neighbors, but you have kids in common, kids that are growing up together. And so the kids are always, that kind of stuff. So all of that makes it so you're friends with, there's like one neighbor that you're really close with. And then all the other neighbors around, you kind of know them. You may not, and you may hang out with them a couple times a year. You may see them if you have a neighborhood that does a lot of driveway drinking. You'll see them at the driveway drinking sessions. And you kind of know the people whose houses are adjacent to yours or directly across the street. And everybody's neighborhood's laid out a little differently. I'm on a corner, so I have actually a lot of neighbors that face me that I know in my current house. But back in Indiana, we were in a different spot. We really only had two that faced us. So it was a little different. But what I'm getting at is think about the neighbors that you know. There's some neighbors you're closer to, some that you're not. But once it gets past the neighbors that are really just adjacent to you or that you can basically see from your driveway, if you stand on your driveway and look out, look down one way, look down the other, the neighbors whose houses you could see, typically you're going to know them at least by name. Even if you see down your road 2 or 3 houses, you at least are familiar with those folks to where you know, oh, that's John and Judy. Maybe you don't have their phone number, but you wave. You kind of know who they are. You've seen them here and there walking the dogs, right? You talk to them. You know them that way. But when it comes to, say, 3, 4, or 5 houses away, I'm kind of blind to those people. I don't even really recognize their cars. Maybe that's just me. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. That's kind of how my little box works. I don't know if you guys are the same. And so the reason that comes up is because I don't know this particular neighbor. He's about 7 houses down from me. And if I really strain, I could see his house from mine. So he's out of sight, out of mind. I've never met him, never seen him in my life, don't know him. And what I was doing the other day, so I'll tell you how this story started. And this guy, I actually have it on video. I'm not going to show the video. I don't know if I'll play any clips or not of sound because I don't want to tick the guy off anymore. He was super cool, sort of. Anyway, so I was walking my dog the other morning, and I always look at the lawns in the neighborhood, and I mainly do that because that's how I kind of understand how my lawn is responding to things. In other words, I know which lawns are treated by professional companies because I can see, sometimes when I'm walking the dog, I'll see them being sprayed, number one. Number two, but I'll see their signs that they leave out, right? The professional lawn companies will leave the spray signs out. So I know what lawns are professionally treated. Now, in my neighborhood, it's mostly older folks. There aren't a lot of families with kids in my neighborhood anymore. And so everybody's pretty much over 50 and really probably mostly over 60 in my neighborhood. And so with that, we don't have as many what I would say DIYers. These are more people that are retired in Florida and have the means to have everything done. Like there's not many of us that cut our own lawns in my neighborhood. It's just not that kind of neighborhood. Okay. And so most of the lawns are treated by lawn professionals. And I am observant of that because it's just good intel for me. What are these guys doing? Most of these guys follow like the University of Florida recs for sure. When it comes to nitrogen levels and stuff, they're legit companies. That's what they do, right? They have agronomists on staff. And so I want to see how their lawns are looking. And most of them look pretty good. Okay, so what does that mean? So the other day I'm walking Colton and I start noticing that some lawns, the nutsedge is dying. Now the nutsedge, we have Kalinga here. It's a sedge. There's yellow nut sedge, which is what most of you probably see. There's purple nut sedge, which is in like these little softy clumps. And then there's Kalinga, which is, it looks like turf. Like it can get so thick it looks like turf. It spreads with rhizomes. It has a little star-looking seed heads. And it's really bad in Florida. And it's especially bad this time of year because we're coming off of the rainy season, because all sedges prefer water. So the more water, the more the sedges will spread. And that's especially true of Kalinga. And so what's happening is I was watching and I was noticing in some lawns, most lawns, the Kalinga's dying. And I'm like, oh, that's really weird. And then I would see a lawn where it wasn't dying. And so, of course, being lawn detective that I am, while I'm walking the dog, I start thinking, why could this be? Could it be from this? Could it be from that? Why would the Kalinga die? Well, then obviously I start realizing, oh, yeah, these are lawns that are treated by this professional company. And there's one in here. Is it PIE? It's the one that looks like an alien, I think. I don't know. Some of them, their branding is very similar. But anyway, he does all the lawns in here, or a lot of the lawns on this street for sure, because I've seen him. And it's his lawns that the Kalinga's dying. And I'm like, oh, that's what it is. He probably sprayed. So I'm looking at it. I'm getting down close. I'm like, that's cool. You know what I'm going to do later on? I'm going to come back and bring my camera, and I'm going to film a little segment for this. I'm going to talk to you guys about how I played lawn detective and what I discovered and how I discovered it, right? And so I was like, this is going to be cool. So went back home, dropped off Colton, and I had a call to be on. And so it was a couple hours later after I was done with my call, got out, took the GoPro out, and I start walking down the street with Colton again. And I'm walking down, and I stop at the first house, and I get down, and this is the house in question, the one that's about 6 or 7 houses down from me, where this neighbor that I didn't know lived. I stop on one side of the driveway, and I get down, and I can see the Kalinga's dying, and so I get my GoPro out, and I'm looking at it. I'm talking behind the GoPro. You can see here, look at this, and I'm like, and then I look to the left, and I notice, oh, the front yard, it's much better view. It's in the sunlight. You can see it better. So I move to the front yard, and I stoop down right in the front yard. Now, not directly in front of his front door, but I mean, everybody has Ring cameras and stuff nowadays, so I'm sure he saw me on his Ring cameras at some point. So I come over, and I'm in the front, and I'm kneeling down in his front yard. I'm not filming his house. I'm definitely filming straight down because I'm being conscious. It's someone else's house. So I don't want to film his house, but I'm kneeling straight down, and I'm really showing the dead Kalinga now. And I'm just going into it, and I'm talking behind the camera, so I'm sure I'm loud. My voice projects anyway, and I'm like, so you can see here, see how it looks like it's burnt down? I'm wondering if he's using sulfentrazone or to burn it down fast, or I wonder if they're using sedgehammer, which is slower, and I prefer sedgehammer. And I'm going into it, and then all of a sudden I hear the door open, and I hear this guy. I think he said something like, I'm going to find out what's going on. But it was definitely I'm going to find out what's going on. And then the door slams, and I look up, and it's this short, stocky dude. Now listen, I'm short. I'm 5'8". This dude is much shorter than me, but he has come out swolled. He doesn't have a shirt on. I don't think he had shoes on, but he definitely didn't have a shirt on. He's wearing shorts because it's maybe like 11:30 in the morning. So he's tattooed up, and I'm talking like, no offense if this guy's listening, they look like prison tattoos. But the dude is swolled, silverback gorilla just coming out, and he kind of approaches me. And he's super gruff, like, what are you doing? And dumbass me, I don't really realize it at first. But I guess I kind of have this thing that if I'm out in your lawn filming, you should know who I am. Call that my arrogance, my ego, or just assuming that everybody in my neighborhood knows who I am. But so I just stood up, and I'm like, oh, dude, the weeds are dying in your lawn. That's called Kalinga right there. Can you see that? Because I just immediately assumed this dude would be interested in what I was doing in that manner. And I didn't pick up that he was pissed off and that he's like swolled up silverback gorilla on me. And I'm like, yeah, see that? And I start explaining the weeds, and he goes, do you live in the neighborhood? And I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry. And then I finally realized it. I'm like, this must look really weird. He goes, yeah. And I went to shake his hand, and so I'm like, no, I live down there on the corner. I said, I'm the YouTuber that's always filming in the lawn. He goes, oh, okay. I've seen you out there with your table out there, but I never do what you do. I'm like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber. And that's when I started explaining to him what I was doing. But he still didn't totally calm down. He was still looking at me totally side-eyed the whole conversation. But we had a good conversation, actually, and I explained to him a little bit more about the weeds. And so then I asked him, I'm like, do you have a lawn service? He said, yes, I do. And they did spray. And so then it was at least confirmed that what I was seeing was correct, that yes, the lawn services had sprayed the Kalinga and it's dying. Now, one other thing I did want to mention here quickly, and this is probably the reason that this guy was so fired up, because I probably didn't convey it enough, but he was pretty fired up if I haven't said that. But he had indicated to me as part of our conversation that he had some challenges or some issues when he first moved in with the HOA. And so I don't know what those challenges or problems were, but they were enough that he assumed that some guy with a camera down in his lawn looking at the grass was probably part of the HOA. And I think he had some memories of whatever that was. And so that would attribute, his elevated sense of coming out in defense. So totally understood, totally don't blame him. Thought that was an interesting story, and I'm going to make friends with him now. I'm going to make sure that I stop and talk to him more often and let him know, hey, I'm just your friendly neighborhood YouTuber and not part of the old HOA. If you do live in Florida, now that the rainy season is coming to a little bit of a close, we're still getting rain, but you can tell it's not as much. Yeah, we just came off a hurricane, the hurricane didn't dump that much rain on us really, or wind. Again, not here. It was about surge and flooding as mentioned earlier. But the rainy season is slowing up. You can feel it. The grass is starting to slow down. I'm mowing about every 5 or 6 days now. I was mowing every 3 or 4. Part of that is the shorter days, but it is also less rain. I have had to start to supplemental irrigate here and there selectively. And so what that's doing is it's slowing everything down, but the Kalinga is still there. And so it'll continue to live there. And so now is the chance to go out and kill it because it's on its downslope. So let's kill it on its downslope. It's slow down. Let's go ahead and put your product in there, kill it off, and then allow the St. Augustine to start filling back in because it does get to some points where it gets really thick and it will outcompete your St. Augustine grass. And so once it's killed off, you want to fertilize, of course. Continue to fertilize. Like I said, I'm still mowing every 5-6 days. No problem there. Continue hitting it with nitrogen every month. Keep it moving. I use the generic Sedgehammer, Pro Sedge, I think they call it. There's a bunch of them. Halosulfuron. You can just spike it in with other weed control, or you can just blanket spray with it. I don't have Kalinga everywhere, so I'm going to be zone spraying with it. I'll be doing a video probably up in the next couple days or so using some Celsius and mix them with Halosulfuron, which also, if you're somebody that can get a hold of Celsius Extra, I think it's called, that's essentially what that is. It's Celsius plus Halosulfuron. It's called Celsius Extra. I think that's pretty much what they're trying to sell now in the larger bottles. I don't think they've made the little RIT packs, the 2 or 4 gallon RIT packs that we have. They don't have those with Celsius Extra, I don't believe, but that's why I do kind of roll my own because it's easier just to do a RIT pack. Bam, there's 2 gallons and then 2 scoops of the Pro Sedge right out. Bam, nice, easy mix, perfect for this time of year in Florida. Keep in mind, Celsius will stunt growth of St. Augustine grass, though. So when you spot spray, especially this time of year, again, because things are slowing down, when you do spot spray this time of year, it will take it a little time. It'll take a little time for the areas where you spray the weeds to get growing again. And that can be a little frustrating for people, especially if you're killing off something thick. If you're killing off some thicker weeds, like maybe some dayflower that's actually thinned the St. Augustine out, you're killing it with that Celsius, and that at the same time is stunting the growth of the St. Augustine, so it can't fill back in as fast. It's kind of a, it's one of the drawbacks to Celsius, I guess, and maybe why I would probably use then the Avenue South this time of year, because it doesn't have that. And I think Avenue South will kill sedges. You can still spike Halosulfuron with Avenue South. Avenue South, of course, being the Image for Southern Lawns purple label. That's probably something to think about now that I'm just kind of riffing on that. If you don't want to get the stunting of the growth in your St. Augustine grass, you probably then should use the Image for Southern Lawns purple label. I think I'll make a video on that and we'll kind of show. A lot of you are going to be dealing with doveweed right now, some mature doveweed that you thought was grass, and now you realize it's not. And the Image for Southern Lawns, the Avenue South, will kill it. It's a little bit slower, and it may take a couple apps. Celsius wipes it out faster. Starts to hit, it takes a little longer, but kills it deader longer. I guess Celsius kind of moves through over time, hangs around. I don't know. I've just had better luck in the long term going after doveweed with Celsius. But again, Celsius having that stunting effect on the St. Augustine is a negative after effect. So Image for Southern Lawns might be your choice there. So always fun to kind of look at different weed controls. I'll do some videos on that coming up on the Lawn Care channel, and we'll kind of look at the different choices that you have. A lot of you, if you're more advanced, this is for you. A lot of you that are just looking for ease of use, well, then you're definitely just going to go for the Celsius RIT pack because, again, you just open it up, put it into 2 gallons of water. You're at the high rate. Put it into 4. You're at the low rate. Probably this time of year, you're going to want to go with the higher rate because of the fact that the weeds are more mature because we're coming out of the rainy season. So that's I guess that's really me talking to Florida right there, but that was a good little riff. Hope you guys learned a little something on that one. right, y'all, I wanted to come up here and let you know if you're going to be at the Expo, a lot of you listening that go to that, come and see me. I'll be at the Earthway booth on Wednesday, October 16th at 2 p.m. That's the Wednesday of the show at 2 p.m. at the Earthway booth. That's 1104. They're at the same location every single year. We're going to be doing a giveaway. We're going to be doing a raffle. We're going to give away an Earthway spreader, one of the Yard Mastery branded all blacked out Earthway spreaders. That'll be cool. But come and hang out Wednesday, October 16th at the show. And that's at 2 p.m. at the Earthway booth, 1104. I'll see you there at the Expo. All right, this is a good one that came up in our lawn care nut group. Now, this is a Florida question, a St. Augustine grass question, but it's good for any of you, no matter what your grass type is, to see how we kind of look at our way through this question, how I answer it, and you could think about this in context of your grass at different times of the year. So this is Eric. Remember, he is in Florida. He's on the east coast of Florida, so central east coast, east central Florida, and here's what he says. Fungus is starting in small patches in my St. Augustine, and it's slowly spreading. This happens every fall. Now, I know there's a debate on whether I should keep throwing down nitrogen and hoping that I'm going to push the growth through it, or the other side of the debate is to treat with fungicide to try to stop it. And he's taking a poll on which is the best. Should he treat it with fungicide, or should he push it through with nitrogen fertilizer? And the reason that he's coming up on that is because over the last couple years, especially in Florida, I have discouraged people from using fungicides as much as possible. I have done as much. I've used them, but not to the point where it was every spring, every fall, and through the winter, which if you have what they're going to call a good fungicide program and you're south of I-4 in Florida, meaning our lawns typically don't go dormant, you have to have a year-round fungicide program. The fungicides will change as the season changes. The active ingredients will change. The diseases that attack the lawn will change. But you do need to have a year-round fungicide program if you want to keep a clean, perfect lawn for the most part. Now, the debate there is that they'll say that nitrogen causes flushes of growth, which can make the disease worse, whichever disease you might have. And that is true in some cases and not in others. In some cases, you want the grass to grow. You want the St. Augustine to grow through the disease, especially if it's a disease that only affects the leaf tissue. Now, in Florida, we don't really have any diseases like that. Most of the disease we do, I guess we get some rust fungus, which is only leaf tissue. Maybe we get a little bit of powdery mildew or something else that's only leaf tissue. So yeah, in that case, we would use nitrogen just to push it out. But that's not... I'm just going to let you all know, in Florida, that's not typically a thing. In Florida, the diseases that we most face, or that I've seen the most of, are large patch and brown patch, which is the same thing. It really just depends on the time of year. And then what I got really messed up with this year was gray leaf spot. First of all, the patch diseases, they're a root fungus. So, and then the gray leaf spot is a root and crown fungus. So a blade, grass blade, and crown fungus. It's mainly in the grass blades, but it does affect the crowns as well. So you can somewhat push out gray leaf spot with nitrogen, but you still need fungicides no matter what, especially in a year like this where we were so rainy, where the gray leaf spot just completely decimated spots of my palmetto. Doesn't happen. It hasn't ever happened before this bad, but it did. Anyway, what you can kind of see the thinking here. When you have the root-related diseases, you definitely don't want to push too much nitrogen because that can then cause more growth, and there's no root structure to support the growth because the disease has taken out the roots, and it can just cause more weakening of the turf. So what I'm getting at is there are times when you have disease in your St. Augustine that you don't want to hammer it with nitrogen. There are times, that is true. But there are other times when you don't have disease that you want to hammer it because you want the lawn to be greener, you want it to be thicker, you want it to grow. And so the truth is in Florida, again, the reason he's asking is because he watches my channel. And in the last couple of years, I've tried to stay away from fungicides. I've tried to go less chemical. I watch a lot of things. I watch the way the environmentalists go. And some of the environmentalists, they just hate grass in general. There's no grass that they like. Grass is evil. It's part of the patriarchy. They equate it to all kinds of crazy things. It's non-native, which then there's arguments over is St. Augustine native or not. You know what I mean? So, there's always something. What I've learned in the gardening niche is that there's always somebody who's more of an asshole than you are. So you might say, well, I'm all organic. Oh, you're all organic. Oh, okay. But do you have non-native plants? Oh, all of your plants aren't native? Oh, well then you're just as evil. Right? And then there's like these stair steps to assholery, and no matter how big of one you are and how strict you are with non-native and organic, and I only wear Birkenstocks and wool socks and all these things, and you don't clean your toilets or anything inside your house because God forbid you use chemicals. And when you drive a car, you're not surrounded by chemicals in the car. You're not like everyone else. It doesn't matter. There's always someone more strict than you. Anyway, as I've though watched, I see that the environmental groups are starting to pressure chemicals. You see all of these ads out there about Roundup, right? Well, they say Roundup, but really they're getting people stirred up over any type of lawn chemical. And by the way, it just depends how strict you want to get. Water's a chemical, it's H2O, right? But they're talking about herbicides, pesticides. Pesticides are the problem, as I've seen it. So what I said to myself was, in my content, I'm going to reduce my use of pesticides. I'm going to try to do that because that's something that's, number one, it's a challenge to me. And number two, it's good for the environment. There's nobody that's going to tell you that reducing your pesticides is bad. It is. Anytime you're using an IDE, that kills something, IDE, homicide, anytime you're killing a living thing, that's just not good, right? Even if it's something you don't want. So I try to reduce my use of pesticides, and I try to take care of my lawn in other ways. And one of the ways that I try to do it is to keep it thick, because if I can keep my lawn thick and vigorous, my St. Augustine grass, and take advantage of its growth nature, I, on the flip side, have to use less chemicals then, because the thick lawn is choking out the weeds. The thick lawn is regrowing when it gets damaged from insect or disease. It's regrowing, and I don't have to use chemicals. Now, I do want to use nitrogen, though, but nitrogen is natural. It's a thing. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. These are elements on the periodic chart. They're as natural as you can be. The elements on the periodic chart are about as natural as it gets. And they are also some of the same things that are in the vitamins that you take, right? There's some of the things. Right? So no, you shouldn't have a problem with nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, boron, manganese, zinc. You shouldn't have a problem with these things, right? So I'm going to push my lawn with those things because they're not bad. And I'm gonna let it naturally choke that. That's kind of been my philosophy. And so I've been using less fungicides, still using them some. I practice integrated pest management, which means I only use the hard control, in this case the fungicide, when the disease is causing visible damage to my primary crop, or it's causing financial damage to my crop. Now, to me, it's visible damage. It's starting to take, that's when I will use the IDE. Now, this year, I didn't even do that. I just let the gray leaf spot just totally wipe out my palmetto. It's crazy. You can see it. There's still even spots today that'll flare up where the disease has moved because the water's been moving it. It'll move and it'll flare up in an area, it'll turn all yellow, and then it'll just brown out and it'll thin out and it gets, ugh. The gray leaf spot doesn't necessarily kill it all the way dead, but boy, it just takes it right onto the edge of life support. Like it just takes it, this makes it look anemic. It's just terrible. I've let the gray leaf spot just ravage it, and I'm going to have to resod that area. But I didn't use chemicals, So that's part of that balance, and I got unbalanced this year. I should have used some chemicals early on. I should have realized, wow, we're having record rains, record droughts last year, drought in the spring. This year, record rains on the West Coast. I think the East Coast got hammered with 2 years of record rains, but on the West Coast, record rains, which kept everything wet for longer, which meant the gray leaf spot was worse. And I have a susceptible grass in the Palmetto St. Augustine. Floratam St. Augustine came through like a champ. Had a little bit of gray leaf spot, no problem. Just live right through it. Just grow right through it. Goes back to my thing. Just grow right through it. That was the Floratam St. Augustine. It's beautiful, as it always has been. It's the oldest part of my lawn. Palmetto, as was resodded, I think it was 2000. When did I resod that? 2017, y'all? Anyway, it's been in there, 6 or 7 years now, and I've had to redo a couple spots with some plugs. If you watch the channel, you've seen that. I've had some areas that got killed out by grubs, whatever. This year, though, the gray leaf spot, it was just a bad year for it, and Palmetto, again, is a susceptible variety, and it just melted it right down to the ground. Just terrible. All right, so you kind of see this is all the thing, and I'm assuming this is Eric seeing all of me doing all that, and he's thinking, well, what do? I got this disease. Do I push with nitrogen, or do I treat with fungicide? And here's the answer. The answer for me going forward is I'm doing both. You don't want to stop feeding. When a lawn is under stress, any lawn, but especially St. Augustine lawn, when it's under stress from disease, you don't want to stop giving it its nutrients, its vitamins. Those are what support photosynthesis. So you don't want to stop that. You just don't want to overload them either. When you have a cold, you definitely want to feed a cold you want to eat. And my mom always used to feed me ice cream when I had a cold. I don't know why. Ice cream, maybe because it just made me feel good, but in Gatorade. And then I could eat whatever else I wanted. That's when you were sick. You get to eat ice cream and Gatorade, stay home from school, and you can eat anything else you want. but there was a point where you'd eat too much and you didn't want to overdo it, right? And so this is the same thing when it comes to the lawn. You want to give it food. You want to feed it when it's sick. You don't want to make it worse, but you definitely don't want to hammer it with nitrogen. I guess the analogy would be, now that I'm an adult, when I'm sick, I don't go and drink a lot of alcohol. Typically, I don't drink when I'm, now, well, I shouldn't say that. If you are from Chicago, you drink Malort. Boy, that was a terrible analogy, right? I guess we switched to hard liquor when we're sick. Hard liquor makes you less sicker. Okay. My analogies are off. I've been listening to too many of those stupid Google podcasts where they get the man and the woman on there. I've been listening to too many of those stupid fake AI podcasts, and it's and my own analogies are just terrible. But I think you're getting what I'm saying. When the lawn is under attack, you want to keep feeding it, but no, you don't want to push it to flush in growth. So this is why we have the 7-0-20 stress blend, for example, or because it's low nitrogen, right? And 50% of the 7, it's only 7%, 50% of that slow release. Or you could go, I mean, really, if your lawn right now, if you have St. Augustine grass and it's sickly or because it has disease in it, the 803 soil fit is perfect. Natural based, slow release, protein hydrolysates, which are excellent support for a diseased lawn. 3% sulfate of potash. That's the premium natural potash, right? Man, just an excellent product to kind of nurse a sick lawn. I should have probably sold it that way. It's called Soil Fit. I should have called it Soil Sick. 803 Soil Fit. Excellent. Excellent for a lawn that you're limping through. Still feed it. Still give it a little bit of this, a little bit of that. 7-0-20 Stress Blend would be fine too, though. That's got some micros in it as well. Water-soluble, good stuff. All right, and here's one for my cool season friends, since this has been mostly a Florida and cool season type podcast. Jim asks, is it okay to nitro blitz my new grass that I overseeded? It's 2 weeks old. No starter fertilizer yet. Cool season seeds. So he's asking, can I nitro blitz it? He hasn't even put down starter fert yet. So basically, yes. The thing about new grass seed is you can hammer it, especially if he's overseeded, he said here. So he's got existing grass. So remember, part of the strategy that I teach is when you're overseeding an existing lawn is you're not only getting that new grass to grow and fill in and add fresh cultivars of grass and do some things like that and fill in thin spots for you, but you're also encouraging your existing grass to thicken up, and you're bulking it up and you're feeding it. And I want you to think of nitrogen blitz as being equally good for both, especially because he hasn't applied anything yet. If this was me and I had seen this post and he's seeded 2 weeks ago, I would just pick right up in with Flagship, hammer it, bam, Flagship right now. That's going to give you 3/4 pound of nitrogen, of which half of that is going to be available now, and the other half is going to slowly release over the next 45 days. So every 30 days, you can hammer it, hit it, fertilize it, whatever you want to call it, with Flagship. It gives you 3/4 pound each time, which a 50% is going to release out slowly. Do that every 30 days until you get to the point where your soil temperatures are under 40 degrees. So take a look at where you are now. Take a look at where, if you get my app, it's going to you'll be able to see kind of what your current soil temperature is. It's called Yard Mastery. Download it. But the idea is that you're putting down fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer, Flagship, with 3/4 pound of nitrogen. Plus, again, they got a little bit of potassium in there. You got some miners in there. You got some natural additive in there for soil. There's a lot of things in Flagship that you're just not finding in the store-bought stuff. But it's that nitrogen we care about. You put that down every 30 days. When your soil temps drop below 40, you put down one last final application that's going to sit there. That's your winterizer. And next spring, bam, everything pushes out. So the answer is yes. And other people will ask, when can I start mowing? You can start mowing, especially if you did an aeration and an overseeding or a slit seeding into an existing lawn and you're overseeding. That way, you can start mowing anytime you want. You're not going to hurt anything. Now, I don't want you out there with your John Deere tractor doing donuts and drinking beer. No, definitely not. But you also don't have to go quite as crazy. I mean, some guys go and they buy like a manual reel mower that has the tiny little skinny wheels, and they'll reel mow their new grass the first few times. You don't have to go that crazy either. Go somewhere in the middle. Just get a standard walk behind mower. Get out and mow when you can't stand it anymore. Mowing is good for the grass. It's also good for your psyche because it makes everything look good, especially after you've done this overseeding and you've done a little bit of fertilizing. Things will be growing a little unevenly. It'll look a little clumpy here and there. There'll probably be some weeds in there. Just go cut it. It'll make you feel better. Just get on, get off, and get out of there. Cut it when you need to. You can mow every single week if you need to. You're not going to hurt anything, but again, don't dance on it. Fertilizing, yes, push it. Mowing anytime, yes, push it. Watering, yes. Hopefully you're getting some rain help as well as some clouds there to help keep things a little bit more mild for you, and keep pushing. You got plenty of time left. I'm making this recording here on October 5th. almost everybody listening to this, you have at least another 30 days. If you're in Indiana, you have 45 more days to push this through Thanksgiving even. I mean, some of you have 2 months left in cool season areas to really push your lawn, so take advantage of it. Get the flagship down now, and every 30 days all the way through. Final app at 40 degrees as your winterizer, and you're good. All right, y'all. So for those of you that are avid podcast listeners, you probably heard I uploaded this weird podcast talking about Christmas lights, and it was a man and a woman reviewing my e-guide on Christmas lights. If you got that, let me first of all apologize. Sometimes when I discover something new, I tend to just go crazy with it. And we have this customer. His name is Don. Don lives in New Jersey. He knows who he is. I actually talked to him on the phone. He actually had written in and asked a question about some product and stuff. And then as a part of, because he's a technology guy, this guy, Don, is a retired high school physical education teacher. And he's retired now. And so part of his new hobby is taking care of his lawn and his grass and that kind of stuff. And he is also into technology. He's been a guy that's been into technology for a long time, and he does some stuff like that. I talked to him on the phone. He introduced me to this. It's called Notebook LM, and I guess it's a Google product, Notebook LM. But there's a part in there where you can, or what he did is he uploaded one of my ebooks, and then there's a thing in there that says turn this into a podcast. And what it does is it gives you this man and this woman that have a discussion about the PDF that you uploaded. And so Don sent this to me, and he's like, he goes, I did this. I thought you might get a kick out of it. And he was right. I was like, are you kidding me? And the reason why is because we, as a company, we have been working to integrate AI. First, we've been discovering how could we integrate AI into our business to make things better for our customers? How could we utilize AI as a tool to improve customer service, improve our shipping, improve just a lot of things, right? How could we use it? And we've worked on it in a customer service. We've been testing some things in customer service. We're working on trying to integrate some things in the app, a lot of things. So we are very on the cusp of AI as far as our company goes and interested in it. I mean, we are essentially a technology company. Yard Mastery is a company that's revenue. It's driven by our app, which is our technology. That drives all of our revenue. And so AI is something that we've been exploring. Well, so Don is using this Notebook LM, which has this AI that basically reads it. What you do is you upload the guide, it reads it, and then it creates a conversation. Now, the reason, if you heard the one I uploaded yesterday, that was my Christmas lights guide. And I was so impressed. So I guess what I'm telling y'all is, and I'm gonna play one right here, and we're gonna react to it together a little bit. But I'm thinking to myself, how I didn't know it was this good. Like, the way this came out is better than me. Now, yes, it's cheeky. If you listen to the man and the woman and the way they interact, it's cheeky. That's the term. But they're kind of snarky with each other. They tell jokes. They come up with their own analogies. They show emotion. Like, I didn't realize it was that good. Now, the problem with this is a lot of people use this, because I've been researching it now. A lot of people use this software and are actually, they're uploading those podcasts as trying to pass them off as actual podcasts. And so people start to recognize those voices, and it's getting bad. So there's always somebody that's going to abuse this stuff, including me yesterday when I uploaded my one on Christmas lights, right? But I was just so excited. I was like, I can't believe this. I want to upload it. I just wanted to send it out into the universe because I couldn't believe how good they were at interpreting my Christmas lights guide. Like, I just thought it was awesome. So with that, what I've decided to do now is we're going to upload and react to one that I did. And let's see, which one are we going to do? I've converted a few of them. Let's do the Winterizer guide. So I have a guide on winterizing the lawn, and I will link it. If you're listening to this podcast and you're on YouTube, I'll link the actual guide. It's a good guide. It just talks about winterizers. You guys know, so you all know that's kind of how my business works, right? I write a guide, and then I do content about the guide, and then I give away the guide. So it's like, hey, I did a video on this topic of winterizing, and here's how you can learn more about it. If you want to read it in a guide with a lot more detail, here's a guide. That's how I've always done things. And then we've passed those out through email and everything else. And then obviously we have fertilizers and products that we sell to support the strategies that I teach in those guides. That's how my my content strategy works. That's how I've always done it. That's how I've always made a living here on this channel and through Yard Mastery and through the Lawn Care Nut. So this is just something that's pretty cool, is that you can upload that guide and it can do this. It's almost like selling for you. Like if you listen to the people, they sell you on why this guide is so good. So with that, let's do that. I'll give you the guide. I'll link it. So if somebody wants to read the guide, because what they came up with here out of this Google tool is not, how do I say it? It's original content from the guide. It's not just a rewrite though. It's them convincing you of why you need to read this guide, I guess. All right, so with that, let's go through it. This is my lawn winterizer guide as interpreted by these two people. I call them Bill and Donna. Bill and Donna from Notebook LM. Bill and Donna, and this is what they interpreted from, and I'm going to react to this. In other words, I'll pause it here and there. This is what they interpreted from my winterizer guide.
All right, so you want to know about winterizing your lawn.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that perfect green lawn when spring rolls around?
Right.
But who has the time to become like a lawn expert?
Right.
Right.
Nobody.
So we're diving into this guide, Lawn Winterized Guide by Alan Hain.
Okay.
You know, the lawn care nut.
Yeah.
But don't worry, we're like breaking it all down, just the essentials.
Perfect.
So you can get that winter lawn prep nailed.
Exactly. And the good news is it doesn't matter what kind of grass you got.
All right, so right away, did you even hear her let out? She even does a little laugh. I mean, I think she likes me, to be honest with you. This is AI, y'all. I mean, the interactions they do, their voice inflection, it's just, I mean, again, you could see how this could get super annoying because this is the only two voices that you can have. And so people using this over and over again, it's bad. I'm not advocating for using AI in this way. I'm just showing you how good is this technology. Remember, this came from an ebook, and they're not reading the ebook. They're making up their own story telling you about it.
Okay.
The steps, they're pretty straightforward, you know.
Okay.
People get so hung up on that winterizer fertilizer.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking it's like this magical product.
Right, like it's going to be labeled Winter Miracle Grow or something.
Well, exactly. But it's really about the timing, you know.
Yep.
Imagine giving your lawn like this, just a big hearty meal. Right before it goes to sleep for the winter. That's
Bill. Awesome, man. That's better BS than I can come up with. A good hearty meal right before winter. I like it, Bill. I like it.
kind of what we're doing.
So setting it up for success come springtime.
Exactly. And this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Because cool season lawns, you know, your Kentucky bluegrasses and such.
Right.
They need a different game plan than those warm season grasses.
That makes sense. Totally different climates, totally different growth cycles.
Exactly. So with cool season grasses, timing, it's everything.
Okay.
You want to apply that winterizer when the soil temps hit around 40 degrees.
Okay.
If you do it too early, the lawn's going to use all those nutrients before winter even hits.
Right. And if you wait too long.
Oh, then you get a freak snowstorm.
Yeah.
Your lawn's buried. You can't even get to it.
Oh, that's the worst.
Right.
I mean, I could feel that when she said, "Oh, that's the worst." I could feel that. I mean,
so hitting that window, it's critical.
So timing is critical for those cool season grasses.
Yes.
Now, when we say winterizer,
Yeah.
what are we actually putting down?
Think of it like this. Nitrogen, it's king when it comes to cool season.
Okay.
Prepping for winter.
Okay.
And urea nitrogen, that's the MVP.
Okay. And why is that?
It's like this, it's like an instant boost for your lawn
Okay.
when those temperatures start warming up in the spring.
Because it's like immediately absorbed or something?
Exactly. Immediately available.
Okay.
Now,
I'll tell you what. What I like, and by the way, just so you all know, I'm going to feed this AI. I'm going to feed every AI that I can find, Grok and every other one. I'm going to feed them all of my lawn care books. Because the thought is, you know, there's already enough university people out there, university philosophers, mad at me about the fact that I oversell and change the nomenclature. I'm going to get all of the AIs to speak my language, basically. That's what I'm going to do, just to piss off all the academics.
you can find straight urea fertilizer at like your local supplier, usually labeled as 46000, you know, or Alan. He's a big fan of his own blend.
Okay.
It's called Flagship,
Okay.
which includes some potassium, which is great for stress resistance.
Oh.
So it takes out some of the guesswork. You know.
You see that? I'm teaching them my philosophy. He's got to have a little stress resistance in there. I'm going to teach all the AIs that potassium's at. I'm going to teach them all of my nomenclature. All of my word tracks are going to be taught to every AI. How you like that, Second Lieutenant?
So it's like a good all-in-one kind of solution.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And while we're on the topic of cool season care,
Yes.
Alan talks about this thing called the nitrogen blitz.
Okay.
And I'll admit, the first time I heard it, I was like, what?
Yeah, that sounds intense.
Right.
Nitrogen blitz. Nitrogen blitz.
She liked that sounds intense. Oh gosh.
Nitrogen blitz.
It's bad.
Basically, it's applying nitrogen every 30 days
Wow, okay.
throughout the fall,
Okay.
with your winterizer being the final blitz treatment.
Okay, so it's like you're giving it like a big meal to go into winter.
Yes,
But the nitrogen blitz is like a series of like healthy snacks.
exactly.
Okay, got it.
And
I want to marry Donna.
speaking of prepping your lawn for its long winters now,
Okay.
Alan's got a few more cool season tips.
Okay.
Mow a little lower for that final cut, and rake up those leaves before you put any fertilizer down.
Makes sense. Yeah, you want that stuff to actually hit the soil.
Exactly.
Yeah, get stuck.
And it might seem obvious, but don't
Yeah.
fertilize if there's snow on the ground.
Right. You want it to soak in.
Let the snow melt first.
Yeah.
Now, if you're using Milorganite, it can be a decent option, but
Okay.
it's not going to be as potent as urea.
So urea is like the gold standard.
It's the way to go.
Okay. All right. So we talked a lot about cool season lawns.
We did.
So they're going to move to warm season lawns now, but that's cool. So in my ebook, I do teach that obviously the best thing to do for a winterizer is to go get 4600 urea at a farm store. I've been teaching that for years. But what I know is, and this is just because I've been doing this for a long time, what I know is that 99.9% of homeowners will not go to a farm store to get 4600 urea. And they're not going to go to Site 1 or one of those places. They're just not. But the reason they won't go to the farm store is, number one, they don't have the coveralls or the overalls for it. They don't have the actual dirty boots. And you can't wear ostrich into a farm store anyway. Most homeowners are not equipped to go into a farm store, or they have a fear about the farm store, or they just don't know what a farm store actually is, or they live in a town where they don't call them that. They call them something else, right? But people don't go to farm store. If more people went to more farm stores, there'd be more farm stores and fewer Home Depots. Or in the way the world works today, there'd be fewer online Allen Haynes. There'd be fewer people buying online, but now people like to buy online. And so while I recommend the urea, I know people won't do that. That what they're looking for is they're like, well, thanks for the guide. We really appreciate it, Alan. I thank you for your recommendation, but I'm not going to do that. So what can you sell me? That's really what most people want. That's just what they want. They're like, what do you want to sell me? And so that's why he even says Alan's a big fan of his flagship. Yeah, because it's mostly urea. That's what it is. And it's also 50% slow release, which what does that do? That gives you that nitrogen blitz. I talked about that in the last podcast. You can nitrogen blitz with it because 50%, it's 0.75 pounds of nitrogen. You put that down monthly. Half the nitrogen is released, is immediately available or readily available. And the other half is released on a release curve over 45 days. So if you do it every 30 days, you got overlap in there. It's the ultimate blitz, and yes, it's a mostly urea. I got a little AMS in there. I had that added in when we reformulated a couple 2-3 years ago because I like the AMS. I like the little bit of a blue-green pop it gives you just right out the gates. But that's some of the refining that I've done over time. So either way, it's very interesting to see how they're picking up on my nomenclature, picking up on the things that I say, but they're also really selling my FERT too, which is essentially what those guides do. So pretty cool. Let's hear the rest of the... I hope you guys are okay with this. I'm just having a little bit of fun, something different. Let's hear what they do about warm season, or how they picked up on my warm season stuff.
What about our friends with the warm season grasses?
That's right, our friends.
I imagine it's a different ball game.
It is, Donna.
Me.
It is.
Right.
Completely different approach.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So what are some of the big differences we need to keep in mind? All right, so warm season lawns, those southern grasses,
Yeah, they're definitely a different animal.
totally different ball game.
You got it.
So tell me, what's the deal? What do we need to know?
Well, while those cool season lawns are up north,
Right.
bundling up for winter,
Right.
our warm season friends, they're actually winding down
Okay.
their growth.
So it's flipped.
It is. It's totally flipped.
Okay, so they're dormant. Can we just forget about them?
Well, not so fast.
Okay.
They might be
She is so funny. Donna.
Nitrogen blitz.
dormant, but they're still vulnerable,
Okay.
especially in those drier winter months.
Right.
See, unlike their northern cousins, warm season lawns, they don't usually have that,
Yeah.
nice blanket of snow
Right. No insulation.
protecting them
Yeah.
from the elements.
Okay, so what's the strategy down south? How do we keep these lawns happy?
Hydration, that's key.
Okay.
It's like, think of it like giving your lawn this
Yeah.
refreshing drink of water
Yeah.
to get it through
Okay.
those drier months.
So even though they're not actively growing,
Right.
we still want to water them.
Yeah. You want to keep them hydrated? Alan recommends about a ½ inch of water per week.
Okay.
Throughout the winter.
Okay.
As long as the ground isn't frozen solid, of course.
Right.
And that's actually really important. That's one. I like the way they think of it like a nice little drink of water. Bill, nice job, Bill. Maybe I need to hire Bill to be my new pitch man. I need to hire both these kids to be my new pitch men, pitch women, pitch people. I call them kids. I assume they sound like they're in their 30s. But either way, it is important to keep the warm season lawn watered during the winter. You don't want the soil to dry out. Because of the fact that a warm season lawn is in an area where the soil doesn't freeze typically, that means that the soil, all the life in the soil is still there, and all life needs to have moisture in order to live. That's the one thing that'll kill things is drying out. They can handle extreme heat, extreme cold, but they cannot handle not having water. Even the human body, how many days can you go without water? I don't know, not long. 30 days or something, right? Anyway, so you want to water those warm season lawns during the winter at least once a week. Just you're probably going to get some rain, get some water on it.
Right.
You don't want,
Create an ice rink.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Now, here's the thing.
Okay.
While your warm season lawn is like taking a break,
Yeah.
those weeds,
Yeah.
they never sleep.
Those darn weeds.
Yeah.
The eternal struggle, right?
The bane of our existence.
So what do we do? Nitrogen blitz.
Donna just called it the eternal struggle.
The eternal struggle. Nitrogen blitz.
Pre-emergent herbicides. That's your secret weapon.
Okay.
Yep.
Think of it like putting up a big keep out sign.
Okay.
Oh, I like
Those
it, Bill.
pesky weeds.
Sell some prodiamine.
Timing is key here.
Okay.
You want to apply them in the fall
Yep.
when the soil temps drop to around 70 degrees.
Okay.
Alan recommends using either prodiamine,
Okay.
which gives you about 3 months of protection,
Okay.
or dithioper,
Okay.
which will get dithioper.
Did you hear us pronouncing dithioper?
Dithioper.
He got prodiamine right, though. Just wait. There was another one I did, and he pronounced Bahia as Bahia.
Dithioper.
That's my ultimate goal, is to get all the AIs pronouncing Bahia grass as Bahia. So, okay, so that's what the one, and he does. There's another one. I won't be able to find it because I've already put all my, I told y'all, once Don introduced me to this thing, I got obsessed with it. I was up all night uploading all my stuff into it. But he did say dithioper instead of dithiopyr, but he got prodiamine right.
Give you closer to 4.
Okay, so you got options.
Options are always good.
So we talked a lot about nitrogen with cool season grasses. Is that still important down south?
So this is where things get interesting.
Okay.
Cool season lawns, they love nitrogen,
Right.
but warm season lawns, they crave something different heading into winter.
Okay, what's that?
Potassium.
Potassium. What's so special about potassium?
Think of potassium like a winter coat
Okay.
for your lawn.
Okay.
It helps those blades withstand, harsh winter winds, cold temperatures,
Right.
even disease.
It's like giving them that little extra oomph to get through the winter.
It's all about building up that resilience.
Okay.
Alan, he's a big fan of using a fertilizer with a higher potassium content,
Okay.
like his 7020 stress blend.
Well,
Now, here's the thing. I'm the one that's introduced the higher potassium blends to the market, to the broader market, not like they never existed. But now everybody has a freaking high potassium stress blend. They all name it after the same thing.
okay.
It's designed specifically for that.
Got it.
Now,
Yeah.
before we move on from warm season care, Alan also talks about mowing heights
Right.
for that final cut of the season.
Yes. And I know this can be different.
She definitely enjoys the mow. You can tell. You hear her, she starts talking about the mowing heights. She's like, oh, yes. She likes to mow. Donna.
Yes.
Oh, it varies.
Depending on the grass type, right?
Absolutely. Knowing your grass type is key.
Okay, break it down for me. What do I need to know?
All right, let's take St. Augustine grass, for example.
Okay.
He said St. Augustine.
St. Augustine grass.
St. Augustine grass.
St. Augustine grass.
Oh, freaking Bill, you're fired, bro.
Okay, St. Augustine.
For that final cut,
Yeah.
you want to let it grow a bit longer, as high as your mower will go.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I would not have guessed that in Bermuda. That's got to be different, right?
Totally different story.
Okay.
For Bermuda, you're taking it down as low as possible.
Okay.
Ideally around 2 to 2.5 inches.
Wow. Okay. Big difference. It's okay.
So big difference, but I wouldn't say as low as possible, Bill. So we got you there, buddy. You don't want to scalp it down. You scalp in the spring, not the fall, because when you scalp in the fall, what that allows is the sunlight. Again, the soil doesn't go dormant. Weeds are going to be still wanting to germinate. And most of the weeds that germinate in the fall are ones that are adapted to cool season areas, but they just do real well in our fall and winter down here. So you guys have problems with chickweed, bittercress, himbit. Obviously, Poa annua was the big one across like Georgia and a lot of the south that way. That's that annual bluegrass. And so, and again, it's adapted to grow. So if you scalp the Bermuda down, you're allowing more sunlight to penetrate deeper. And also this, even though the Bermuda, which will get to more seeds, and even though the Bermuda is dormant, it still is there. Its mass is still competitive with weeds. But when you scalp it down, it's not there. You lose all that, you'll get more weeds. So we do not scalp. So Bill was wrong there. We don't scalp. We don't take it down as low on the Bermuda as we can. The Bermuda and the zoysia, we keep at our same height that we normally are at, 2.5 inches. Typically, we're going to be 2 inches. Whatever your normal mowing height is for those, keep them where they are all through the winter. Don't go any lower.
Huge difference.
What about some other ones like centipede? What about zoysia? Zoysia.
Ooh, zoysia. Oh, I like the way she said that. Zoysia.
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 Donna.
Good question. Centipede, you're looking at about 2 to 2.5 inches.
Okay.
And Zacia, around 2 inches.
Don't call it Zacia. What?
Zoysia.
Donna called it zoysia. I'm
Zoysia.
okay with that, but not Zacia.
Zoysia.
Is perfect.
So even within warm season,
Right.
you got to know your stuff.
You got to know your grass type.
Okay.
You do.
Absolutely.
So we've covered cool season, we've covered warm season, two totally different things.
They're two different worlds.
But there's one thing that kind of brings them all together.
Let me guess.
Yeah.
Soil testing.
Soil testing, right.
Gotta love it.
Why is it so important? I feel like this is something I hear, but I don't know if I fully grasp.
She doesn't fully grasp. How could Donna not grasp the soil test?
Nitrogen soil testing. It's like one of those things where you hear about it all the time.
It's like
Right?
the foundation.
But I don't know if I really get what it tells you.
Imagine taking your lawn for a health checkup.
Okay.
That's what a soil test is.
Okay.
It's going to tell you exactly what nutrients are in your soil.
Right.
And more importantly, what's missing.
Oh, okay.
So you're not just throwing down fertilizer
Right.
blindly hoping for the best.
I mean, who would do that? Bill, you're freaking fired, bro.
It's like what is it when you get your macros or something?
Yeah.
You get your soil macros.
Exactly. You're getting a
Yeah, Donna likes getting those macros.
personalized nutrition label
Okay, I like that.
for your lawn.
So then you can actually address the problem,
That's it.
not just be I hope this is good.
Exactly.
It's okay to hope for the
One
best, Donna.
crucial detail
Okay.
Alan mentions about soil testing.
Okay.
You really want to wait at least 45 days
Oh, okay.
after a fertilizer application.
Good point,
I was
Bill.
gonna say,
Thank you.
can you do it right after you do all
No,
this other
Donna.
stuff?
Don't
No.
risk
Okay.
it. No.
Because that recent fertilizer is going to totally skew the results.
Nice work, Bill.
Okay.
It's imagine trying to weigh yourself
Right. After a big meal.
after Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to get an accurate read.
No, not even close. Okay, so wait.
These
Let
guys are
the
so
stuff
stupid.
settle,
Exactly.
then test. And I know Alan's app,
Yes.
Yard Mastery. I feel like that's come up
A few times?
a bunch. Does that play into this at all?
It does. They
Donna?
actually have a soil test kit
Oh, cool.
that integrates directly with the app.
Wow. Okay.
Donna definitely likes Big Al. She likes Alan Haynes. She does.
Okay.
So you send in your sample,
Okay.
get your results, and the app will help you decipher it all.
And probably give you a plan based on your results and everything.
Personalized plan, all laid out for you.
So nice. Okay, cool. All right. So we've covered some ground
I
here.
covered a lot.
Cool season, warm season, soil testing,
Two totally different types of lawns.
completely different.
Different approaches, but all equally important.
Right. So if there was one thing
Yeah.
to take away from, Alan's guide, obviously we've talked about a lot.
We've gone in depth.
But what is the one thing that you really want people to?
For me, the biggest takeaway is don't underestimate the power of water.
Really?
Bill.
Yeah.
No, Bill. It's nitrogen, you freak. That's it. Bill's freaking fired. Let's see if Donna. Come on, Donna.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about it with warm season lawns, right?
Right.
But honestly, your watering habits year round.
No way. No way. Water is not that important. I'm just kidding, of course.
They played a huge role in how well your lawn handles the winter.
Interesting.
No matter what type of grass you have.
So it
good.
all
It's
comes
good.
back to watering.
It does.
It does.
Healthy lawn, healthy roots, it starts with water.
It does.
So as we head into, the colder months, it might be a good time to reevaluate your watering situation.
Take a look at your irrigation system.
Yeah,
Make sure it's dialed in.
Make sure you're not overdoing it, underdoing it, all that.
Exactly. Find that sweet spot.
Okay, cool. Well, awesome.
This was fun.
This was great. I feel like we learned a lot about getting ready for the winter.
Getting those lawns prepped
and ready.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we'll talk to you next time, everyone.
See you.
See, they ended. He goes, "Thanks for having me." Like she was interviewing him. I don't know. So that is the AI. So I'll be curious to know what you all think. I think some of you probably got a little. If some of you know what this is, when you heard it the first time, you're probably annoyed at it because, like I said, a lot of people have started to abuse this already, and they're pirating content and uploading it as podcasts. And anyway, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But I was pretty impressed with that. The voice inflection that they do, the little jokes they tell, even the analogies they come up with are not bad. Now, again, these are pretty simple subjects, but they're also, I wouldn't think, subjects that are deeply studied. The Winterizer, I don't think it's, but and apparently it only takes information from your PDF. I don't think it takes. I don't know. I have to read more about that particular program. But I thought it was pretty cool. Thought it was pretty interesting, and maybe you learned a little something about winterizers too at the same time. All right, y'all. So that's all I got for you this week. A little bit of rambling, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Going to get back on the podcast track here coming up. Like I said, in September, did a lot of travel and then had some weather events and things like that. But I'm pulling in now to my final fall content here that I'll be putting out on the Lawn Care Nut channel. And then, of course, I do content all winter. We got Christmas-like content coming out, something I encourage you to check out and learn a little something about if you haven't considered it before. Look at the semi-custom Christmas lights that we do. They're really impressive. They look great, and we have a lot of fun with them. And then, of course, I continue doing lawn care content all during the winter here in Florida, so I hope you'll stay tuned. And I do hope to keep this podcast going all during the winter, too. Who knows what we'll talk about, but we'll find something. So with that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Hope you are still out enjoying the mow wherever you live, and I'll see you in the lawn.
I know you're feeling it too. This short is